Hi, it's so good to be here today, and welcome. So traditionally, we would always think that flavor comes through the chain of coffee plants, its origin, and also its processes. Then we can impact this flavor further by roasting or brewing the cup of coffee. However, over the last few years, with so much innovation on coffee processing technology, I believe that something else is possible. I believe that we can now ferment coffee with specific taste goals in mind as a starting point. Now I call this purpose-driven fermentation. So throughout my coffee journey and throughout exploring different fermentation techniques, I came across one that allows for more control and also consistency. It is the carbonic maceration. And to me, carbonic maceration serves as a great baseline of approaching coffee fermentation from a new and also purposeful direction. So if you see in front of you on section 1, this is the traditional CM steps. Typically with the CM, we pick our coffee cherries and then we depulp it. Then we put it inside a stainless steel tank similar to the one that you have in front of you before sealing this tank and pressurizing it with carbon dioxide. Now this forces oxygen out, allowing us to have a fully anaerobic environment inside our tank. Now this adds two main benefits to our coffee. Firstly, the prolonged contact time with the carbon dioxide adds more vibrancy in the acidity. And then secondly, the anaerobic environment gives more structure and higher definition of flavor to our cup of coffee. So today I'm going to highlight a few purpose-driven modifications to the traditional CM steps in 3 different coffees that was chosen for espresso, milk course, and also signature beverage course. Now I'm going to do some work over here on this table, but for now I would like you to direct your attention to section 2 in front of you. This is fermentation for espresso beverage. So the goal for espresso, I believe, is to have a well-balanced, vibrant, and also clear cup of coffee. With this goal in mind, we chose a coffee that was specifically fermented for this purpose. It is a green tip geisha from the Falcon region of Panama. This coffee was processed by Jamison Savage of Finca Debra at 1900 meters above sea level. Now, as you can see at part 1 of section 2, this is how Jamison started his fermentation. He picks his coffee cherries and then he depulps it. Then he leaves 10% of mucilage intact to give a better tactile experience to the coffee. Then the next step is putting it through the traditional carbonic maceration. This was done to add vibrancy into the coffee. However, due to the lack of oxygen inside our tank, the coffee was lacking a little bit of sweetness. So the last step of fermentation for this coffee is to put it in a 3-tier drying bed system, as you can see on the placemat. So Jamison started drying on the top layer where the coffee can spend direct contact time with the sunlight. Then he moves his coffee to the second and the third layer where it can spend a little bit more contact time, breaking down the mucilage slower, allowing Jamison to give complex sugary sweetness and balance out the vibrancy in our coffee. So just to bring out all these beautiful potentials to the cup, we roasted this coffee to 20% roasting development with a very slow first crack at 9 minutes. Now later on when I give you this coffee, please assess the crema only, but do not drink them just yet. So this espresso is so good. In there, you get intense floral jasmine aroma. Then you get vibrancy. They'll remind you of stewed orange. And as it cools down to room temperature, the sweetness will start to shine through. And it will remind you of lemon candy. Now the body is just slightly below medium, but with a very round and smooth texture. The finish is long and also it's lingering, and that lemon candy will stick to the back of your palate. Today we use 19.5 grams of coffee to yield out 42 grams of espresso. We also use 90.8 degrees Celsius temperature on the machine to bring out the most well-balanced cup of espresso. Now, please stir 10 times to fully mix all the flavor in there and take at least 3 big sips to enjoy this drink. The empty vessels in front of you are for your dirty teaspoons, and please go ahead and really enjoy this drink. Alright, now changes. Sorry to rush you, but let's move on to the next course, the milk beverage course. This is on section 3 in front of you. So the goal for this milk beverage is to get clarity and also balance. With that goal in mind, we chose a coffee that was specifically fermented for that purpose. It is an heirloom variety coffee that was processed by the Project Origin team in Ethiopia. They process this coffee using a combination of traditional CM and also natural processing. So if you see on the first section, for the first side of section 3, this is how they start their fermentation. Picking whole coffee cherry, before putting it into the traditional carbonic maceration tank, to ferment and to get intensity of flavor. Then the coffee is moved out to dry naturally on African raised beds for further 25 days. Now this combination is what gives this coffee the fruit-forward intensity and a heavy base that will go really well with milk. Now again, when I give you this milk, please assess the visual only, but do not drink them just yet. And just like the coffee, the milk that we're using today has undergone a purpose-driven approach to intensify its qualities. First, we chose an Indonesian cow. They were specifically fed with 4 different types of grains and also grasses. Now this was done to improve the carbohydrate level inside the milk, intensifying the sweetness. Then we process this milk through freeze distillation to remove 50% of its water content, giving a really creamy mouthfeel. Then lastly, we cook this milk in a hot water bath for 1 hour to further intensify that sweetness. Today we use 20 grams of coffee to yield out 28 grams of espresso. And this makes the milk beverage really, really good. In there, you get flavors that remind you of Irish cream. Then you also get vanilla. Then strawberry jam will kick in. Alright, now please stir 5 times clockwise to fully harmonize all the flavor. And please go ahead and enjoy. I'm really, really excited for you to try this. Thank you. Thank you. Alright, judges, now let's move on to the next course. My favorite one, actually. This is the signature beverage course. So after working with purpose-driven fermentation and seeing its impact on flavor and quality, I can help but wonder, if this process can improve beautiful coffees in Ethiopia or in Panama, what could it do to more humble but equally interesting coffee from my home country in Indonesia? So together with Jason, we began a project, flying him down from Panama to process some of the most exciting coffees being harvested at Wahana Estate in North Sumatra. The coffee information is on section 4 in front of you. So this is a long berry variety coffee, and we love it for its rich, creamy mouthfeel and deep spiced chocolate flavor. However, I believe that we can still improve this coffee by putting it through the traditional CM steps. However, we quickly realized that fermentation happens a little bit differently in Indonesia. It's warmer and it's also a lot more humid. And if we simply recreate the steps, we know fermentation could go crazy. So if you see there in front of you, we put our own spin to the traditional CM. We put our fermentation tank inside an ice bath, allowing us to have a 13 degrees Celsius temperature, prolonging our fermentation time to 100 hours. Now, this drove really interesting flavor changes. The chocolate became a lot more nuanced, and then we also added a new flavor of dark cherry. But then, because of the prolonged contact time, vibrancy was lacking a little bit. So the goal for signature beverage today is to support that chocolate and dark cherry flavor with new vibrancy, new sweetness, and adding a better tactile experience. So we're going to start with your base ingredients. 4 shots of the long berry coffee, 22 grams of coffeine, 42 grams of espresso. Then to add vibrancy, we're adding kefir water that are made using 10% of rose buds, 10% of Japanese algae, and 10% of sugar with 70% of water fermented for 2 days. Then to add sweetness, we're adding strawberry that has been fermented with sourdough culture. 500 grams of strawberry, 200 grams of sugar with 200 grams of sourdough culture that has been diluted with some water in a hot water bath for 2 hours at 61 degrees Celsius, fermented on room temperature for 2 days, and then we juice it. Today we're using 50 ml of this. Now lastly, to bind everything together and adding a better tactile experience, we're adding black plum that has been fermented with carbonic maceration. So 200 grams of black plum inside this tank for 100 hours after being pressurized with carbon dioxide. The result is this beautiful plum juice, and today we're using 20 ml of this. And I've also accounted for the loss in the vessel. Now, the drink today will be served slightly chilled to accentuate the sweetness and also the fruit notes. And I want you to enjoy this drink in 3 sips, swirling in between your sip, and making sure that you take at least 30 seconds in between. In there, you get vibrancy that will remind you of strawberry. Then you get dark chocolate truffle and dark cherry. And then in between this, you'll notice floral aroma that will remind you of rosebuds. Judges, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope that you've enjoyed your experience today, and thank you so much. Time.